Have you ever wished that you could drag and drop a high performance flow state into any part of your day, morning, noon or night, so that essentially you can feel your best and perform your best whenever you choose? If you have, then keep watching, because this morning I was in my mastermind and we were talking about flow states and how we can hack into flow states. And I want to share with you a very top line level of a 5-step process that you can use to start to do exactly what I just said, to drag and drop a flow state into any part of your day. So essentially there are 5 points to this process. Set the scene, set the intention, set the state, set the clock, and then set the anchor. So I'll go through each one at a very high level. So the first one, you need to set the scene. So what you want to do is think about in the past when you've been in a really potent flow state, and look at the environment around you. What was present, what wasn't present. Look at it from all of your 5 senses: visual, auditory, kinesthetic, gustatory and olfactory, smell and taste. So what were you seeing, what were you seeing and what weren't you seeing? Were you in a coffee shop or were you in a bus station or an airport? Yeah? What were you hearing? What were you feeling? What were you smelling when you were in that high performance flow state? Think of a few other times you're in a high performance flow state naturally and ask yourself the same questions. What were you seeing? What were you hearing? What were you feeling? What were you smelling? What were you tasting, etc.? Think about what your internal dialogue was when you were in a high performance flow state. Think what was present and what wasn't present. What you want to start doing is find out what the patterns are, what the commonalities are. And you want to start making a list of these things that in your environment, in the scene around you, need to be present or not present in order for you to have the best chances of dropping in to a flow state. For me, for example, being in a coffee shop, hearing the sound of people buzzing around me, the smell of coffee, the clock ticking, all of that kind of stuff, my laptop open, my dog next to me, that puts me into a flow state, yeah? So set the scene. Next, what you want to do is set the intention. What I mean by this is this: a flow state is an autotelic process, yeah? Which means by being in the state itself is reward enough. We don't need to win in order to feel good. Just by doing the process, we feel good. What we want to do essentially is this: we want to dissociate from the outcome. We want to separate ourselves from the outcome. If we're so focused on cracking the brief, writing the perfect chapter in our book, writing the perfect scene in our screenplay, drawing the perfect picture, etc., we start jamming up the channels, we start choking ourselves out. So detach from outcome. You want to move from the outcome into process, yeah? So you want to be in the deep now. The next one, you need to set the state. So when we're in a flow state, basically what happens is our brainwaves move from beta, which is very fast moving, I'm in beta state now, and we move down into alpha, theta, and delta is when we sleep. So what we want to be doing is getting into a theta state of mind, or more specifically, between alpha and theta. We need to set the state. One way to do that is through cardiac coherence, which is something I've spoken about in other videos. Type it in and find it. It's a very powerful way to get your neurology into the theta state, the alpha theta brainwave state. Yeah, to set the state. Then you want to set the clock. What you need to know about flow is that it takes 15 minutes for flow to occur. You have to go through a struggle phase at first before you actually get into flow. The reason is flow is a bunch of neurochemicals, yeah? Serotonin, anandamide, endorphin, dopamine, oxytocin, etc. When you're getting into flow, when you've sat down to work, you've set the scene, you've set the intention, you've set your state, you need to give yourself 15 minutes for the bath to fill up with water, i.e. your brain and nervous system to fill up with the feel-good chemicals in order for flow to fully flow. So you need to set the clock. Then what you do, give it 15 minutes, get into the flow state. You want to be staying in there for around about 90 minutes, not much longer, because then your brain starts getting distracted naturally. We can only focus, deeply on deep work for about 90 to 120 minutes full on. So I would say get about 15 minutes in, do about 90 minutes of being in that deep flow zone, and then we want to come out of it. But before you come out of flow, when you find yourself at the peak moment of flow, you feel your best, you're performing your best, set some kind of trigger, set an anchor. An anchor or a trigger is an external stimulant that triggers an external stimulant. It's not a pill, not a tablet. An external, like touching your fingers together or something, or putting some music on in your headphones, for example. You want to set the trigger. An external thing triggers an internal response, the flow state, yeah? You want your brain to hardwire that neurologically. A equals B, it's an algorithm. If this, then that. If Guns N' Roses is playing, get into a flow state. If I touch my thumb and forefinger together, get into a flow state. That is essentially a very, very high level of what a trigger is, what an anchor is. And overall, that's a very, very high level of how you can drag and drop a flow state to any part of your day. So you need to set the scene, you need to set the intention, you need to set the state, you need to set the clock, and then you need to set the anchor. Have fun with that. Oh, if you need help with that, DM me for details about the mastermind.